Okay, so I'm assuming that a guy who would go on record repeatedly equating pedestrian betting, a very pedestrian betting strategy, with greatness would have a sense of humour and know that he's set himself up to be, I don't know, criticised. Is that the word? I mean, this was another one of John Cerasani's sessions where he could easily have made money if he'd really wanted to, but he showed every sign of being absolutely determined to play as soft a betting strategy as possible, so that he wouldn't embarrass himself in the eyes of his hosts by actually making money. But yeah, he had one thing in this in this particular session which I must admit really irked me, because he said, "If you'd been progressive betting at this point, you'd have been 2 units down, but I'm breaking even." And this was 4 bets in, and those 4 bets in would have been -1, +2, -1, +2. And even an idiot, somebody who doesn't understand arithmetic at all, can figure out that -1 +2 -1 +2 is +2. And for him, because he was -1 +1 -1 +1, it was even. But hey, there's no law against people being stupid, and there's no law against people putting stupid stuff up on YouTube. There are people who tell you that's exactly what I'm doing. But what I'm actually doing is simply trying to point out to as many people who are willing to listen that these guys are basically engaged in a con game. They are trying to demonstrate to you how exciting it is to lose at casinos, and they don't tell you that they can't lose because of the money that they make from Google. That's not part of their dynamic, their kind of business plan. They pretend that they are emotionally devastated when they lose money. And you take somebody like Vegas Matt, whose slogan is "My gambling is as real as it gets." I mean, that is a flat out lie, because real gamblers lose money when they bet stupidly. But he doesn't. He gets more money back at the end of the day from his gambling activities than anybody could possibly hope to make from actual gambling. He doesn't win money from one month to the next, unless, of course, he has miracle wins at slot machines, which really stretch credulity to breaking point. But hey, maybe he's telling the truth. But generally speaking, the way that he plays, the way Vegas Matt plays, the way Cerasani plays, the way Bobby Rivas bets, the way all of these guys bet, there is no way in hell that they're going to end up making a profit at these table games, except they get money back from Google. All their losses are forgiven, all their losses are wiped out, and along the way, their overheads are very low because they're getting freebies from the casinos left and right, their hosts, who are in turn getting very good value out of them because it's free advertising, which absolutely overturns regulations which are intended to protect vulnerable people, particularly teenagers and kids, from access to promotion of gambling. And YouTube is complicit in busting those regulations to bits, and each one of these guys is doing the same thing. And if you're in the group of people who say, "Hey, it's just harmless fun," well, go into a casino, look around you, look at the faces of people who are losing money hand over fist, and ask yourself, are they having fun? Because they may not be. So here we go with the latest John Cerasani contribution to the crazy world of gambling on YouTube. And once again, you've got an example of here's the flat bet situation. This is if you were just betting 1 unit, like I don't know, he loves $500, a nickel as he calls it, as his minimum bet. And if you can't see a similarity between this here red thingy and this sort of greenish, when he came out at actually no, that's not right. I'm pretty sure he was +5%. But let me just check on that. I think I might have screwed up there. Yeah, my apologies, including to King John himself. Yeah, I'm always telling you, I will make mistakes, but I'll always find them, and that's a perfect example because it says down here it was a 0.5% hold for him, and that's exactly how it turned out. We got this other slight thingy here. There we go. That's just a very, very minor little quirky thing. But the thing with John is he he keeps on saying that he's written a book. He's got a class. He's got all kinds of things going on. That promoting himself as being a really top-notch blackjack player, and yet he keeps putting up videos, sessions like this last one, this Circa Part 1, in which he demonstrates that he actually doesn't know his arse from his elbow. I mean, seriously. Look at this. I mean, he gets all the way up to 4,000 a head up here, 3,750 a head, and then it comes down to what? Minus 4,750. Then, thanks to this little stretch here, climbs out of it, gets up to 1,250 a head, blows it with the last bet, and all of this. Let's remember, this is his money. He can do whatever the hell he wants. My quarrel with him is that he claims to be a first-rate blackjack player, and there may be people out there who actually believe him. And I'm just trying to get across the idea that what you need to do is understand what all of these professional losers are about. They're basically clowns. They're performing seals. They're balancing coloured balls on their noses and flapping their flippers and basically working for the house. They're not being paid directly by the house in terms of cash. They may or may not get their money back when they lose. That's none of my business. I have no idea. But I do know that they're constantly being showered with promotional chips and free RFB, room, food, beverage, right? I should be able to remember what that is because I used to take advantage of it myself whenever I could. I don't think in all the years that I was going to Vegas, I don't think I paid for a room more than maybe a couple of times. And there were dozens upon dozens of trips over there. A lot of them part of my job because I covered showbiz. I wrote about the showbiz. So I would be flown over there and put up and would get interviews with, I don't know, everybody from David Copperfield to Joan Rivers to Buddy Hackett to whoever, some great encounters over there. And along the way, once I developed the common sense that you need in order to be able to beat these games, then I was doing just fine. Wasn't making a fortune because I didn't have a huge bankroll, but I had enough to hold my own, and with help from some really nice people who became kind of co-conspirators, mentors, whatever, partners in not crime but profit, partners in profit. I like that. But anyway, this is John. He came out with $250. He gave the dealer 100, and that's fine. That's fine. At least he's not one of these flash buggers who gives them thousands. It's some kind of bloody, I don't know, chest thumping bloody piece of alpha male nonsense, I think. Along with Bobby Rivas, who loves to give people, buy 1,000 people tacos and buy people cars and all that sort of thing. I mean, just think about the damage that you're doing by teaching people to bet like prats, because that's the big argument that I have with all of these guys. Actually, they're misleading people. So anyway, let's have a look. Where are we? We had action of 19,025, or sorry, I beg your pardon, Algae. The algorithm had action of 19,000 compared to John's 53,000. So once again, all of you people who think, oh my God, your bets are too high. Nobody could do that. Just think about it, I mean, he makes 0.5% on his action of 53,000, and Algie makes, excuse me, 14% on his action of a lot less than half of, what, about 20%? Something like that. Is it about 20%? Well, yes, it was 1938. It's about 40%. No. What am I talking about? Anyway, it's a lot less, is what I'm trying to say. And look at the difference. I mean, this is obviously the same flat bets chart. A little bit of an interruption there. You didn't want to hear me coughing and spluttering and gurgling and making all my barnyard noises. So yes, I mean, 14%. I'll tell you, if you can hold 14% of your action at the end of the day, you're doing damn well. That's a house number. That's what they expect to get at the very least from these games. I remember years ago, a dealer that who I got to know very well at Harrah's was saying that the guy who ran his shift, the pit boss who ran his shift, was displeased if the final win for the house at the end of a shift was not 25% of the drop. So in other words, he wanted to see extra chips in the dealer's tray that indicated a win of 25% of the total value of the drop. So in other words, 125%, and that's how it's supposed to be. But no, I mean it's just crazy. And these people, the Cerasanis, the Vegas Matts, the Bobby Rivases, the Dana Whites, all of these people who deny that they're promoting gambling or encouraging people to gamble or teaching people to gamble stupidly. They're all a bunch of bloody liars, to be honest. That's the reality. What they're doing is dangerous. And all I'm trying to do is to say to people, look, if you can't put up a really, really huge bankroll that goes somewhere in the right direction towards the size of the money that the dealer has in front of him or her, which is anywhere from 150 grand to 500,000, then don't waste your money. You will get your ass kicked the way that Cerasani does all the time, while claiming that he's the greatest blackjack player who ever played the game. I mean, how crazy is that? Yeah, there was a guy for a while, Christopher somebody or other, who was booted off YouTube, and he kept saying that he was the greatest of all time, and he'd won this and he'd won that, and he'd done this and he'd done that, and he was reeling people in. And what I noticed he was doing was he was actually stealing the pattern betting strategy. He was putting up demos in which, he had these big sheets of butcher paper, huge things on an easel, and the whole thing, and saying, yeah, well, then I went here, and then things turned nasty, so I went there, and I continued betting at the same level, and then I won this, and then I was thinking, God, you bloody plagiarist. But anyway, he was actually selling the strategy, and he got some people to play with him, and of course, they lost money because they didn't have enough by way of a bankroll. And I think he was finally rumbled by these very lax people who run YouTube. I mean, I've got to tell you, these are a bunch of people who don't believe in any kind of protection for the audience that they built up around the world. And they have no interest in monitoring ads to make sure that they're honest and truthful and all the rest of it. All they want is the money. And that's what these guys are about. The Cerasanis, the Vegas Matts, the Dana Whites. White, I don't think has his own. I don't know. I wouldn't watch it if he did. So I don't think he has his own channel. But certainly his acolytes, like the Jack of Farts, thingamajig, Steve Will Do It, De Leonardis, I think, and Crazy Cody, Burn Money, and others. They all have their their little places. And you wonder, you look at what Crazy Cody does with the online outfit that he's constantly promoting, and he's doing these sort of crazy things where I rage deposited 500,000 and this is what happened and so on. And you look at that and you think, is this real? Is this what Mr. Handpay was talking about, Jason Bulkey, when he said these guys are not playing with their own money? They got, it's just fake money. I mean, does it really matter? I think that Mr. HP is playing with fake money simply because he can't lose. Same as Vegas Matt, can't lose. Because whatever they piss up the wall while the camera's rolling, they're going to get back from Google at the end of the day. So, that's just not fair and honest. It's more mathematics, and they're all shills, frontman, touts, whatever. But if you want to believe them, you have that right. And if you want to disbelieve what I'm doing, you have that right too. Take it or leave it, believe it or not. There is the difference between Algie and John. Oh, and I keep meaning to put the Algie line onto his charts, and I keep forgetting, so I'm going to fix that. Yeah, I keep telling myself what I need to do is to make sure that on this tab, the online reality, which is, of course, obviously John's bets, that I need to make sure that the difference is clearly seen. And you can see it. I mean, obviously, when there's a slump, then certainly pattern betting is going to face a little bit of a challenge, but then it comes out of it very quickly. And and then there's another slump here, and it comes out of that, and it obviously is dependent to a degree on what the flat bet AV, the actual value, is doing, what the house edge is doing at any given time. But it will always recover from challenges. It will always beat them, and that's the whole point of the strategy. It's not to show up people like John Cerasani as fools. It's to make money, but you could only do it if you've got the resources to run it as a business in exactly the same way that the casinos run these games as a business. They are they're in the business of stopping anybody with a decent betting strategy from making any money, and they know all the tricks. Everything from table limits to whatever else they need to do to slow people down, stop them from making money. And Cerasani says at one point in this session, progressive betting isn't going to work. You'd be down 2 units by now, and I'm even. Absolute flat out lie. It's such nonsense. And then you listen to somebody like John and you think, does he believe this shit? Does he really believe that pattern betting is too dangerous and that you shouldn't use it because you're going to lose money hand over fist? Does he actually believe that? Because it's certainly what the casinos want all of us to believe, and that's why they have their house pets, the Vegas Mats and the Degen Dolts and the others. Every so often do this thing, and Bobby Rivas did it most recently. Well, let's try a martingale and see what happens. Oh, yeah, see that? Boy, that's ridiculous. You risk all that money and then you only win 1 unit. I mean, what a load of bollocks. Anyway, I'm going to go now. Bye.